everybody to part 6 of our 6-part marketing bootcamp series using Google Analytics to track your marketing performance. It's been a long journey to get here, a lot of content creation, a lot of ideas bouncing around on our team's side, putting all this together, and I hope it's been super helpful for you guys. Up to this point, we've talked a lot about how to do your marketing successfully in 2020. Today, we're going to talk about how to measure that performance to make sure that all this work, all this energy you're putting in is actually creating success for you. So I'm excited to dive into this topic as we talk data today. I think there's a Big Bang Theory, if you follow that TV show, reference to talk data to me. And today, we're going to talk data to you, but we're going to try to unpack it in a way that makes it really understandable and relatable and something that you can start doing in your business. Because what we hear is most people we talk to are never in their Google Analytics, and we want to help solve that problem for you today. If this is your first time with us, we had a lot of people register for this last boot camp in our series. For the first boot camp they were registering for. We're glad that you're here. My name is Matt. I'm the founder of Q4Launch. We're a destination hospitality travel marketing agency based in Charleston, South Carolina, representing properties, hotels, B&Bs, vacational management companies from Singapore to Maui. Have a staff of 50 headquartered here in our Charleston office. And we're excited that you're joining with us today as we apply what we know about the hospitality industry and how to put heads in beds to the Google Analytics side of measuring our business's performance and diving into this. If you're just catching this first boot camp, or maybe you're catching the recording, there's good news. One, we recorded the previous 5, so that's available for you. But more good news, if you maybe missed one along the way, or you missed the recording before the recording came down, we are going to be replaying this at the beginning of the year. We've had such tremendously great feedback from many of you, so thank you for that. We love hearing your feedback on our bootcamp series. I had such great feedback from you guys that we're going to replay this bootcamp series at the beginning of the year. I know this is kind of a crazy, hectic time of year for many of you, so we wanted to set it up to have success, set you up for success going into 2020. But I also know many of us don't really start those efforts until the beginning of the year. So for those of you that might be a little bit more procrastinators, or maybe you're not actually going to start executing on this until the beginning of the year, we're going to replay this bootcamp series at the beginning of 2020. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for those invitations, and we will get that information out to you on how to register for that, sign up for that. Go back and view something again, maybe that you missed, or missed a whole series, or share it with a friend who you think needs to hear about it. We really appreciate it when you share this content as well. Lets us know that we're doing a good job and that the content is helpful for you. So that's a little bit of what's going on and happening around here. I know many of you are headed into the Christmas week in the next week or so. So congratulations on that. Hopefully you've got some time off coming up. I know I'm personally looking forward to that, and just some time with family. It's going to be a special time. So I hope you all find some time to really hit pause this Christmas season and reflect on the many blessings that you've had throughout this year and spend time with family. With that, let's dive into our topic today. Lots to cover, so let's get right at it from tracking our marketing performance. And how do we do that with Google Analytics? So let's dive in and see what we've got. As we start this, we want to kind of hit a couple quotes to set this concept up for you. The first here from W. Edwards Deming: without data, you're just another person with an opinion. And I'm going to reference several Google Analytics analysis I've done in the last week actually today, because honestly, they're very applicable to our conversation today, but they're also conversations I have almost every day with people. And I was having a conversation with an innkeeper actually earlier this week, and it was telling me, I feel this way, I feel this way, I feel this way. And I was like, well, that's good that you feel that way, but let's consult the data. And I was like, we're on the right call because we're going to do a Google Analytics analysis together. Let's see what the data says. So you're feeling this way in your business, but let's see what the data says. Because until we have the data to prove, yes, your feelings are correct, or no, your feelings aren't correct, but here's what's going on actually, without the data, we're just an opinion. And opinions lead us to make emotional decisions about our business. And while we want consumers to make emotional decisions when booking with us and spend lots of money, right? We don't want to make emotional decisions as business owners, as CEOs, as marketing directors. We don't want to make emotional decisions. We want to make data-driven decisions. And at Q4Launch, one of our core values is to help our customers make data-driven decisions. and really help everybody make data-driven decisions. And that's part of why we're doing this webinar today, is to help you make data-driven decisions, but move past emotion, move past opinion into informed decision, and letting that data shape the decisions we're making is so important. In addition to that, data by itself is useless. This quote from Todd Park: data by itself is useless. Data is only useful if you apply it. And I would say that's true of everything we've learned over the 6-part marketing bootcamp series. And if you've heard me speak at conferences, you've heard me say this a lot, but don't come spend an hour with us, learn, and then go do nothing with it. I think most people, that's what they do. You know, they go to a conference, they go to a session, they attend a bootcamp series like this, they learn, they get excited, but then they get back into the reality of their business and they realize they have no bandwidth to do anything or any margin to do anything with what they've learned. And it goes on and nothing happens. And that's not a good place to find yourself. So don't do that. Do something with what you learned today. Do something with what you've learned over our bootcamp series, and do something with the data that you have. Having Google Analytics set up is a great first step, but most people with all of this data don't actually do anything with it. You know, as we talk to people about, you know, are you in your Google Analytics? What does the data tell you? The most common answer we get, and I would say probably 95% or more, is I'm not really in my analytics ever. I don't even know my password, and that's okay. I'm not saying that to judge you at all. I'm saying that to say that's not actually okay. I'm saying that to say you've got to do different. You've got to be in your data on a regular basis, because that data, we believe, will shape your business strategy. We believe that data is the pulse of your business, and it represents that. And as part of that, we need to be analyzing our data at least monthly. Our teams and our customers' data on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, different pieces of data at different frequencies. We also have alerts set up to tell us different things. So we do a lot with data at Q4Launch, and it's an area we're leaning more into all the time, but you have to be in there on a regular basis. It's the pulse of your business. And as such, and it's not, I don't think it's a coincidence that the little analytics chart actually looks like a little a pulse chart. Excuse me for not knowing the medical term for that, but for that, I mean, that's what it represents. It's the leading indicator of what will come in your business. You know, it's kind of the ghost of Christmas present, if you will, for the Dickens Carol, right? Or the Christmas Carol from Dickens. It's kind of telling us what's coming in the future based on how healthy our website performance is. Our business will be that healthy or unhealthy in the future, because traffic coming to our site converts into bookings. Bookings convert into revenue. Revenue is mostly how you measure the success of your business. So you've got to be in here. You've got to understand it. You have to understand each of the elements, and we're going to talk about how to track them by source today as well. How are they performing for you? Organic search, email, social, referral partners, paid advertising, all the things we've taught you how to do over the last 5 boot camps. We're going to teach you how to measure them today to make sure that each one is successful for you. And then how's that performing year over year? As you're looking at this data, make sure you're looking at it year over year. We all know in the travel industry, it's a very seasonal industry. You probably have a peak season and an off season. Maybe you're in a destination that's fortunate enough to be almost always in peak season. But even in those destinations, Charleston's one of them, we still have some off or shoulder seasons and some that are just crazy peak seasons. And I'm sure that's true in your destination. So you've got to look at data year over year to understand, how is this performing for us? If you look at it month over month, or if you work with an agency that doesn't specialize in this space and they're looking at it month over month, typically heading into peak season, you're going to feel like everything is awesome. Everything's growing, traffic's growing, everything's great. And then coming out of peak season, everything's terrible because it's on the decline. When in reality, it's neither of those is true. It's just that you're heading into peak or coming out of peak. What you need to do is analyze data year over year. And it makes a lot of sense, but people who don't know our space well don't necessarily know that. And that's one of the reasons I tell people, if you're going to work with a marketing agency, work with an agency who specializes in this space. Because if you don't, you miss out on so many things. And I had an analytics analysis this week with somebody, and they had tons of very amateur hour mistakes in the relaunch of their website that had cost them a lot of traffic, had lost a lot of data, had lost some rankings from an SEO perspective, and it was a mess. And I was like, this is why you need to work with somebody who's an expert in the space. Like, not just going to your local agency because they also work with your CVB, so they must be credible, but really looking at it and saying, okay, this is what's going on, and how do we fix it, and getting to a place where you have the expertise to do that. And you never get to that place where you're trying to catch up and fix those things. So work with somebody who knows what they're doing, somebody that you trust, somebody that's invested into the relationship with you if you're gonna work with an agency in 2020. All right, so let's dive in. Let's talk a little bit about the good and the bad. This is one of the simple concepts of Google Analytics, but something we want to talk about. One of the reasons we want to be in our data on a regular basis is to capitalize on the good. We want to know what's working. We want to know what content we're creating is driving traffic for us. What email campaigns were our most successful? What social media posts drove the most traffic? We want to see in our analytics what we did from a marketing perspective that is working and do more of it. Find what's working and lean into it. What pages are getting the above average organic traffic? And when you find what's good and you do more of it, you're going to have more success, right? A very simple concept, but if you're not in your data on a regular basis, you don't know what to do about this. And on the flip side of that, we want to correct the bad. I just told that story about the person who launched a new website and the company who launched it did a lot of things wrong. And unfortunately for them, they were asking for an analytics analysis to help understand what was wrong. But we were 4 months post website launch and trying to unpack what went wrong. Now, there's no time like the present. So there's no better time to do that than now, but we shouldn't have had to do that now. We should be in our data on a regular basis, weekly or monthly at the least, to really be able to say, okay, we can catch things sooner that way. And we could have fixed this problem a long time ago, whereas now we're 4 months into it, we've lost revenue, it's just a different scenario that you find yourself in. So being able to correct the bad is critically important. And most people, that's often what they're looking for in a Google Analytics analysis. But I love being able to tell people how to capitalize on the good as well, and being able to point to things in their marketing that went really, really well and help them think through what can we learn from that. So we'll talk a little bit more about this. One, did we traffic materially slip in an area? Did we lose traction in one of our marketing sources? Email marketing or social or organic search or paid? Did we lose ground we had taken somewhere before? Did we get caught by a Google algorithm change? Looking at what's going on in analytics. I was doing another analytics analysis on Monday this week. And I said, man, something happened in your analytics in June of this year, like something significant. We've been on a downward trend ever since. And this prospective customer said, thinking back, we did a pretty significant update to our homepage in that month. And I was like, okay, well, that's probably what it was. We want to verify that, right? We want to match the dates. We want to roll those changes back to a certain extent. So they're going to come on board as a customer. We're going to help them fix those things. But looking in the data, again, that happened in June. Here we are in December, and now we're just seeing that, where they've lost traffic for the last 6 months as a result of that. So we want to correct the bad by being in there on a regular basis. Did we lose an important inbound link? I can't tell you how big of a deal this can make. We had a customer years ago that their local CVB had an intern working on their website, on the CVB's website, and they deleted the link to our customer site. Well, we were in their analytics and we saw that all of a sudden our referral traffic from the source had gone away essentially completely. So we contacted the customer and said, hey, did you drop your membership? Did you drop your ad? Did something change? No, everything's fine. Leads us to go to the CVB site, see their listing and see that the link is gone. Everybody else has a link, but ours is gone. Come to find out the intern accidentally deleted the link. If we hadn't known that high quality source of traffic from our CVB back to our site would have been lost for who knows how long if we hadn't been monitoring that. And they would have lost a lot of opportunity from that. Is your conversion rate down? And what do you need to do about it if it is? We're going to talk about measuring conversion in a little bit, but conversion rate is really important. And is your conversion rate up or down? And what do you need to do as a result of that? And then kind of how you should live in this and where to go for this data in your analytics. Go into acquisition on the left-hand sidebar, and then go to source, go to sessions, and then at the top, and we'll show you how to do this later, but sort by absolute change. And it will help you understand, by sorting by absolute change, it will help you see your data differently. It will literally filter your data differently so that you can see where have we lost the most traffic from. If you follow those steps, you'll see where we've lost the most traffic from. And if you need help with that, let us know. We're happy to help you figure that out, but we'll show you a little screenshot of that as well. But it helps you get to see what's going wrong in our analytics, because by default, Google Analytics is set up to show you what's going right. You got to work a little bit to figure out how to get to see what's going wrong. So that will help you get to that place. And then a few basic steps to better understand your data. So we're hitting some basics here at the top of the hour to kind of get you set up for success. Some basic steps you can take to better understand your data. We would say use source medium as your go-to metric. that's where you need to spend your time. That's a specific area within Google Analytics. That's where you need to spend the majority of your time. The majority of the insights we're trying to gain live inside of that source medium report. You also need to make sure that you're excluding self-referral traffic. If you see your domain name showing up in your Google Analytics as a source of traffic, it's not actually a source of traffic. What's happening is people are coming to your website, going to your booking engine, coming back to your website, and it's counting that visit twice. So your traffic to your site is actually heavily inflated by that. The other problem with that is most e-commerce transactions will get recorded as self-referral traffic, and you will lose all of the source reporting for your e-commerce transactions, or almost all of it. So you'll see e-commerce transactions in your analytics and you'll say, oh, all of my transactions came from self-referral traffic, which means we have no idea where they actually came from. The source looks like it was your own website, which isn't necessarily possible, so we lose tracking. So, and in that same, one of the analytics analysis I referenced earlier, they had this same issue. Because their web developer didn't know our space, they didn't know how to exclude self-referral traffic and that was important, and they didn't do it. And then as a result, they'd lost all that accurate tracking that they had. Also exclude spam traffic, and this is a constant battle, and Google Analytics does a great job of eliminating spam traffic, but some will still slip through. So if you see significant sources of spam traffic in your analytics, you can filter those out, eliminate those from your reports so that you have better, cleaner data. Always compare year over year, and if it's helpful for you, Google Analytics has a dashboard functionality. You can build your own custom dashboard and take the metrics or the key performance indicators that are most important to you and put them into a dashboard. And then make sure you're tracking what pages are performing well. Again, we want to learn from what's going well. What pages are performing well, and how do we get more of that going in our marketing strategy? Are there particular landing pages that are working really well? What about that page is working so well? Is it the way you have the button set up? Is it the information on the page? Like, understanding what's going well can really help us be more effective as marketers and web designers. So really important steps to take. All right, we're going to talk about goals and tracking conversions next. So let's dive into this. So use goals to track conversions. Creating a high converting website should be a top priority for you. It's something we're looking at a lot, and I'm actually going to speak on this several times in the beginning of the year on how to create a highly converting website or drive conversion on your site. And part of the reason we're putting a lot of focus on this right now is with all the changes happening in Google right now, which we talked about a few weeks ago in our boot camp related to that. With all those changes happening, we know Google is making less and less traffic available from an organic perspective. So we believe from an SEO perspective, we will probably have less traffic in 2020. If everything else was equal, we will have less traffic in 2020 than we had in 2019. Now, from an SEO perspective, we're working to overcome that by changing strategy. But the point I'm trying to make here is if we have less traffic available to us, we have less clicks available to us, every visit has to become more valuable. Every opportunity we have to book someone has to become more valuable. We have to increase the likelihood that they are going to book with us. So really getting into conversion rate optimization helps you increase the likelihood someone is going to convert, and optimizing your website specifically around conversion rate optimization. And that's a big part of where our future-proof platform comes in, because as we're studying these things, researching these things, we're able to test things, test changes, and roll them out for all of our customers across our future-proof platform. And all of our customers get those updates for free as part of their future-proof platform subscription. So if you've heard me talk about website design in the past, you've heard me talk about the importance of a platform and a subscription-based model, that is a big part of why. Because a subscription-based model is constantly evolving, getting better, and learning, versus the website you may have now, which is a static project, and if you want anything done to it, you have to do it yourself. So we've got to make these visits more valuable, and part of how we're going to do that, part of how you should do that, is have a subscription-based website that's getting better all the time. But the more important thing we're going to talk about here is we got to track goals inside of analytics. Now, the most important goal we're going to track is e-commerce conversion. People that come to our website and end up booking with us, and we're going to talk about that more in depth. But think about your own business. Like you're all running slightly different businesses, or very different businesses in some cases. What's most important for you? Do you do a lot of weddings? Do you need a wedding RFP goal to track? Do you need a goal to track whether somebody clicks the check availability button? Like, you got to match the complexity with kind of how complex your business is. So don't go crazy with this, but think about really asking yourself this simple question. If someone comes to my website, what does a successful visit look like? And e-commerce tracking is part of that, but there are probably other things you want people to do on your website as well. And anything you want someone to do, you need to measure. So define what success looks like for a visit to your website, and then figure out how you're going to measure that. So that's that last bullet there. Define your goals and track that user flow or success. And as part of that, it gives us the opportunity to track goal accomplishment by source, because what we know is not all traffic sources are created equal. Quality of traffic ranges quite a bit based on how they got there in the first place. So tracking that by source helps us understand which parts of our marketing are working. So not only which part of your marketing is driving traffic to your site, which Google Analytics will tell you by default, but what does that traffic do when it gets to your site? So understanding how does organic traffic performing differently than paid traffic? Same source, both coming from Google or Bing, but how are they performing differently? And what can I learn from that? Same is true of email or social or any other traffic source to your site. Not only am I getting it to my site and growing that, which is important, that's the first thing you have to do, but what is that traffic doing once it gets there? And goals and e-commerce tracking are going to help you measure that. So let's talk about e-commerce tracking for a minute. This is absolutely critical to have set up. If you are on today's webinar and you're in the hospitality industry and you don't have this set up, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm embarrassed that you've been following our bootcamp series this long and are still in that place. But I know many of you are still in that place because I did maybe 6 Google Analytics analysis and now that's a lot to say. Google Analytics analyses this week, and either 2 or 3 of those 6 did not have e-commerce tracking set up. It's a shocking thing to me to still run into people who don't have that. But I think that's part of running into people who aren't using an expert in our space or an expert in our industry. They just don't have it. Or they're using somebody who is in our industry who's just not that great at their job, or they're just not paying attention, or they had a new employee set this up and they didn't do their job right, or whatever the issue is. It's your responsibility as the business owner to go in your analytics and see, do I have e-commerce tracking set up, and does it seem to be working correctly? I was talking to a large resort this week, and I'll spare the destination for their sake, but they had e-commerce tracking set up. But what we saw was they were spending about $100,000 in paid advertising in one particular area, and there was little to no conversion associated with it. And I said, this doesn't seem right. Like, either you're wasting all your money or your e-commerce tracking isn't working. And they went back to their agency and had a conversation like, oh, yeah, I think it's not working. Well, all the other data and analytics said it is working, actually, because we could see tracking by source. All the data pointed to, no, that was a bad investment. Your agency guided you poorly on making that $100,000 paid advertising investment. But either way, that agency left that customer or not customer, they weren't our customer, they were their customer, but they left them in a really bad place because one of 2 things definitely happened. Either their e-commerce tracking isn't working correctly, and it hasn't worked correctly all year, and the agency never caught it, took us to catch it, or 2, their e-commerce tracking is working correctly, and that $100,000 paid advertising investment has been a total failure. So either way, the agency failed their customer. And we see that all too often, and it pains me to see it, but it gives me a little bit of encouragement to help people set that right. But it comes from getting this set up in the first place and making sure it's set up properly in the second place. And you may not know if it's set up properly or not, but we can help you unpack that. Because we see so much data, we know what properly looks like. We can benchmark that performance for you and say, yeah, this looks about right. Like, all these other metrics are where we expect them to be, so that is probably correct as well, that one didn't perform for you. Or we can say, this just looks like a mess. Like, we've had people, many people over the years that we've looked at their analytics, and it's technically tracking e-commerce, but it's a mess. Like, nothing looks to be correct. It might look correct to the customer because it's recording transactions, but it's recording them incorrectly. And as technology changes and as platform changes, you've got to keep an eye on this. Like, it's just so important to make sure you're tracking this correctly. And as you're doing that, just like we said, tracking traffic by source medium, you have to track bookings by source medium, because not all traffic sources are created equal. And then we have to know if we're tracking bookings by source medium, like Google Organic, Google Paid, Facebook Mobile, like all those different sources, then we can start making data-driven marketing decisions about where we should be investing and knowing what to do based off of our booking activity. So this is such an important part of what we're looking at. We can also say, okay, if we expect SEO to get tighter, or we expect some Google Organic challenges in 2020, how do we need to build a strategy for that now, as opposed to wait till that becomes a reality and then be stuck trying to adjust for that at that point. So lots going on, but this is absolutely critical to make sure you have set up. And if you're confused at all by this, or you're not sure if it's set up correctly, get in touch with us. We'd love to help you figure that out, but you've got to make sure you're set up correctly and this is tracking properly to have a successful 2020 and know how to allocate your marketing budgets. All right, so let's dive in now and start talking a little bit about traffic by source. So here we go. We're going to talk about search engine optimization and how to really measure whether that's effective. We need to look at is organic traffic increasing or decreasing. I've referenced several times the challenges we expect to see from an organic perspective in 2020, but we've got to be tracking this on a regular basis. Across the vacation rental industry, we've seen a decline in traffic to many people since the vacation rental search design as part of hotel search results rolled out sometime over the spring and summer. We talked a lot about that a week or so ago in that boot camp. But we've seen some declines in traffic related to that, and we're evolving strategy accordingly. But you have to go in and look at that, because that might not be your problem. Like, you might have seen declines for other reasons in your traffic, and I've referenced a few of those stories today, so I won't say them again, but you've got to be tracking this on a regular basis. So go into acquisition, all traffic, source medium, and you'll see Google Organic show up as one of those. Compare it year over year for whatever date range you're interested in, and then figure out how's that working for you. Secondarily to that, break that down by landing page. So in that same left-hand sidebar, you can actually go to behavior and then look at landing pages in your site. So how are specific landing pages on your site working for you? Is traffic up? Is traffic down? Is conversion up? Is conversion down? Looking at those landing pages kind of helps you start unpacking, okay, maybe we have an organic search problem. Maybe our traffic is declining. Let's take that next step and see, okay, well, where is it declining? So you've told me my site as a whole is declining. Where is it declining? So then once we see that page, we can figure out, okay, all of our other pages are performing well, but this page is not performing well. So how do we need to fix that page? And then build a strategy to solve that. That's the correcting the bad part of that. The other part of it is look at those landing pages, see what's performing well, and capitalize on the good. Figure out, what can I learn from that page that's performing really well? Why is that page traffic is up 20%? The rest of my pages, traffic's only up 4%. Figure those things out and you create opportunities for yourself, and that's part of what we're looking at. As we do this, we also have to understand that variance is normal. We expect to see variance among landing pages. We expect to see variance among keywords that we're targeting. So don't be alarmed by variance, but that's again why we want to track year over year, because it helps us look at the variance and say, okay, that variance is expected, but how does it compare year over year? Because the same page shouldn't vary year over year. Variance from page to page, comparing one page to another page, we expect, but comparing this year to last year, we don't expect to see a lot of variance there. So how does that evolve our strategy? The other thing we know to be true about this is Google is ranking interior landing pages more and more. They're trying to help their user get to the information they're looking for faster with less clicks, so they're ranking interior pages more and more. So what that means is, and oftentimes when we're doing an analytics analysis, we'll see traffic to the home page is down, but traffic to the interior pages is up. We'll go and we'll look at some of the keywords that we're working on, and we'll see that Google has actually shifted. A keyword that used to have our home page ranked is now ranking an interior page. That's okay, we're fine with that as long as we've accounted for that and we've said, okay, traffic here is down, but traffic is up here. So figuring it out, Google has just switched what they're ranking, what page they're ranking for that keyword. No problem, we don't have an issue, we don't need to fix that, we're in a good place. Doesn't mean we don't need to address a strategy to how do we drive our homepage higher at a time where Google's ranking interior landing pages more, but it also means our content on those pages needs to change. And we talked a lot about that on our bootcamp series, or our bootcamp about that specific thing. So go back to that if you can, and look at your notes about what we talked about there. We don't have time to get into it today. But these interior landing pages are really important. I was talking to a large vacational management company doing a Google Analytics analysis last week for them. And what they're launching a new brand, and what we saw, a long-established company kind of launching a new name as they do some different growth things. And what we saw was they didn't have their landing pages set up right. So I was like, okay, like you're trying to rank in all these different markets that you're operating in now, but your landing pages aren't set up correctly. And their web developer had technically created landing pages, so they'd done like a third of the work, but the other two-thirds, the two-thirds that really matters to get the SEO rankings, to get those pages ranked for the destination names, hadn't been done. So it was like, okay, we're a third of the way to where we need to be. So the good news is we're a third of the way, not there at all, but we've got to go the next steps because you're never going to rank for these keywords because you're not set up properly to do it. So going into the analytics, looking at what the data is telling us, and then going back to the website to see where it's set up, led us to what our strategy needs to be for 2020. We were able to lay that out, put it together, and have put together a plan for that person for their 2020 organic search strategy and bring them onto our team or working with our team. But that's what we've got to look at and understand how this works from a content strategy, how it impacts your website. And it's also part of the reason why it's really important how quickly you can get things done on your website. How quick can you build a landing page? How expensive is it? Because I was talking to a prospective customer just the other day as well. I was like, hey, similar story. We need to build these landing pages to target these keywords you want to go after, and you don't have them. They're like, well, I agree with you. We need to, but my web developer is going to charge me $1,000 to build each of those landing pages. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, yeah, that's even if they get back to me in the first place. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this. You are losing money, you're losing opportunity by not being able to target these keywords, by not being able to build landing pages, by it costing $1,000, and who knows if they'll even get back to your support ticket in time. Like, so the basic element, we've got a website issue there, right? Like we have a provider issue there we've got to solve for, but those are things we run into all the time. And if you're in that place, don't just settle for that. You have to be willing to do something different to get a different result in 2020, because if that's where you are, it just puts you in a really hard place. So this is a really important thing we need to look at in 2020. And it also, I think, will get more important as it relates to the vacational search results design, because when we look at the keywords ranked for those, it's not usually the same keywords we're going after from a long tail landing page perspective. So an opportunity that I think exists to kind of get around some of the traditional way that's been done. I don't know how long that opportunity or that window will stay open with Google, but there's an opportunity there now. So something we need to definitely lean into. All right, let's keep moving. Talk about some of our other channels here. So we talked about organic, let's talk about paid search. I just taught a whole boot camp on this. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time here, but for those of you that might have missed it, I wanna recap a little bit of it. Quick things we love about pay-per-click. 70% of the average, that's actually one of the things we hate. So I put that in the wrong spot. But our customers see an average of 5 to 10x return on ad spend from pay-per-click paid advertising. We love that. We love it's predictable. What I hate about that, in that first bullet there, is that according to WordStream, which is a pay-per-click software company, 70% of the average pay-per-click budget is wasted. And I can tell you, doing so many analytics analysis for people, we see this true again and again and again. And we're taking over more and more analytics campaigns all the time to right this issue and fix this issue. And I taught you a lot of how to eliminate that waste in our specific boot camp we did on this. But if you're not sure where you are on this, reach out for help, because it is way more complex than the Google reps will lead you to believe it is, and it's getting more complex all the time. And at the same time it's getting more complex, it's getting more competitive all the time. So we have to measure that. And the only reason I share our kind of range of return on ad spend is to give you a benchmark to measure yourself against and to measure your campaigns against. That same prospective customer I talked about that didn't have the landing pages set up correctly, we looked at their analytics and they were getting a 2x return on ad spend. And I said, hey, like at the very least, you need to be getting a 5x return on ad spend. So knowing that right away, like we start shifting things from, oh, okay, they're in a good place, to, oh, we need to do something different here. I'm losing money. My return on ad spend is not what it should be. So you've got to set some goals, set some benchmarks for those things, and work towards those on a regular basis. And how you measure your paid search ads inside of analytics is critically important. The goals that you're tracking, but more important than that, the e-commerce revenue that you're tracking to get to a return on ad spend. If you're working with an agency who's managing your ads and they don't have e-commerce tracking, or they're not talking about return on ad spend, you probably need to make a change, because chances are you're losing a significant amount of your budget. All right, let's talk about blogging for just a minute. How is your blog strategy performing? So very rarely do we run into people that are actually creating content on a regular basis, blogs or pages for their site. But when they do, or when we do run into people who are, I ask the question, how is your blog strategy performing? And there's almost always silence on the other end of the phone, because they don't know how to answer that question. In reality, it shouldn't be a hard question to ask if your blog is set up correctly. So we need to make sure that our blog is set up with a URL structure that's easy to track, so that every blog has a consistent URL structure so we can track that in analytics. How we set it up is yourdomainname.com/blog/blog post name. That's how we set it up. So at a quick, with one filter in analytics, we can see all the traffic entering our website to any page with /blog in the URL. That's what this report to the right is actually looking at, is blogs that are coming into our site and the performance of those blogs. In this case, for this period of time, this customer had 87,000 people enter their website on a blog we created for them. That is definitely an outlier, but it can happen. And we have a lot of success stories. Customers that have been with us 3, 4, 5 years, seeing that kind of traffic. So to do this, go to behavior, site content, landing pages. And then if you have your blog set up properly to track it well, put in a filter for /blog and you'll be able to see this data. For our customers, we set an expectation that customers that have been with us 12 months or more, we want to see 750 people a month entering the website via the blog. Entering the website via the blog is what I just said. And that's really key, because what that means is they did a Google search, you were ranked, they clicked on your blog, they entered your website, which is very different than how most web designers think people find your blog. Most web designers design a blog thinking someone went to your homepage, clicked on blog, and got there. When in reality, if you're doing content marketing right, somebody is searching something when they're planning a trip to your destination, and they're finding your blog as a result of that. So knowing that, we have to treat it very differently. 1, treat it differently how we track it. 2, treat it differently how we expect it to perform. And this is really important, how we expect it to perform, because these people we're attracting in this stage are in the dreaming and planning stage for the most part, not in the booking stage. So we can't expect them to act like people that are booking. And as part of that, we then have to know, okay, if they're not in the booking stage, a book now call to action probably isn't going to work. What other call to actions do we need to put in front of them that might work for somebody in the dreaming and planning stage? I'll let you noodle on that one for a while, figure that out. But you've really got to figure that out, because step 1 is increasing traffic, getting ranked, right? Getting ranked for relevant keywords increases traffic. Step 2 is once you have that traffic to your site, what are you doing with it? How are you creating a conversion journey for those people? And I will tell you that very few people get step 1 right. I would say less than 5% of people, and that's probably high, get step 1 right on their own. And of those 5%, I've never seen anybody we've done a Google Analytics analysis for get step 2 right. And that's a combination of reasons, but that's what you've got to do. So a lot of people say, oh, it doesn't work, or oh, the strategy's not performing, or oh, whatever, when in reality, you can't blame the strategy, it's just not done right. Right? I mean, you've heard me talk a lot. I speak a lot in analogies because I'm a simple person. But you know, if I go out and play golf and I shoot a 90 at the end of the day, I would probably say golf does not work. When in reality, golf isn't the problem. The course isn't the problem. My clubs aren't the problem. The balls aren't the problem. The wind's kind of a problem, but I'm the problem, right? I'm the one executing. I'm the one swinging. I'm the one putting. It's my fault because I'm executing the strategy. I'm executing golf and I'm bad at golf. So I shoot a 90. Billy, who's shooting our video, is good at golf. He executes golf and shoots a 75. Neither of us are going to go pro, which is why we work at Q4Launch, but he's way better than I am. So that's why if we're going to go play golf, Billy should be playing golf and I should be probably carrying his clubs. And if you're going to do marketing, you might be great at it and you should be doing your own marketing, or you might not be great at it and you need to work with somebody who is great at it. But don't blame the strategy. Don't blame golf. Maybe blame the person who's executing it. And that same thing is true with other stories. Maybe you're working with an agency but the performance isn't there. Maybe the strategy is not the problem. The problem is the agency's not doing a great job representing you. We've shared many stories just in the last 2 weeks that I've seen of that. And we see a lot of it this time of year, because people are looking at making changes. So we see more of it this time of year than any other. But that's not that it's happening more this time of year than any other. It's just that people are looking at it more this time of year than any other. It's happening all the time, and you've got to figure out how are you going to track it. And that's what we've been all over today from a topic perspective. Let's touch on email as well. I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, just did a whole boot camp on this as well. But email typically will drive the strongest ROI of any marketing medium. Does yours? And I know that text is really small there on the screen, lots of content, but we've got to balance the book now with the destination messaging. We have to understand that destination messaging builds loyalty over time, gets us open, but book now messaging is really what drives booking and generates ROI. We see some tremendous success stories when we balance these two things well inside of our analytics, especially when we can pair that with a special offer. There's a quick case study on one of our customers this year that drove about $400,000 of bookings via email marketing. And I'm not telling you our best success story. We have customers that drove millions of dollars with email marketing, but that customer drove $400,000 of email marketing, about $200,000 actually booking online, and about another $200,000 that they picked up by phone calls coming in from their email campaigns. And that phone one is an estimate. The e-commerce one, there's actual real data. You can see that to the penny. But the phone one is an estimate because they get about half their bookings by phone. So we believe that's true of email. Actually, email can drive a higher percentage of phone bookings because they tend to be past guests. Sometimes past guests, depending on your branding and who your guests are more likely to call by phone because they might actually want to talk to you because they know you. Sometimes they're less likely because they already trust you and they're more likely to book online. So a little bit of variance there. But again, the point being that they spent $9,000 on email marketing and generated $400,000 in bookings. That's a 45x return on investment. Show me anywhere else you can get that kind of ROI. It's a crazy ROI and it's a crazy success story, but those success stories are out there for larger companies. And it's not the raw numbers that need to be important to you. Maybe you're a smaller vacation rental manager, or a smaller boutique hotel or inn or B&B, and you're like, oh my gosh, my annual revenue is not even $400,000. Don't get caught up on the number, but really focus on the opportunity that exists and then figure out how are you going to measure that opportunity. And as part of this, we need to look at, and I talked about this in our email marketing bootcamp, but we need to look at which email campaigns were our top performers. So going back, I talked about watching the tape and used a Nick Saban reference, if you remember that bootcamp or if you were on that one, but you need to watch the tape. You need to be in your analytics on a regular basis. You need to see your email campaigns that performed really well and the ones that didn't perform really well, and that should inform your strategy. You need to be going back and reviewing those things. We just had a meeting with our team, really preparing and making sure our first quarter 2020 strategies are all good to go. And as part of that, we referenced some campaigns from first quarter 2019 that were very successful. And I said, let's look back at those campaigns that were so successful. And as a team, let's unpack why they were so successful. So we're going back and we're looking at the tape from first quarter 2019 and say, what was it about this campaign that was so successful? And unpacking that as a team so that we can apply that learning to all of our customers. So some tremendous opportunities come when you do it, execute on it well, and then go back and look at the analytics to say, okay, what went well? Which campaigns do we need to look at? Pull those campaigns back out and figure out why that performed so well and what can we learn from that and apply that learning to the marketing we're doing in 2020. And oftentimes as we do that, we'll figure out there's things we can apply not just to email, but to other parts of our strategy, to the photos we select, the headlines that we use. Those learnings will apply across everything that we're doing, and that's one of the reasons we believe that integrated marketing is so important and having one partner managing that for you as opposed to having it spread out amongst many things, because if you don't, that learning is lost to a certain extent. So really important topic here. Also want to touch briefly on the value of referring website partners. Now, this is an area that we've typically seen on the decline. One, a lot of referral websites are actually converting into OTAs themselves to try to make more money, so they've gone away in a big way. But the other part of that is many referring websites are on the decline from a traffic perspective because they don't have a good strategy to keep up their referring, to keep their traffic up. Which is one of those analytics analysis I referenced earlier. Their state level CVB had launched a new website in August. And since August, their traffic from that CVB was down like 20 to 40%. I can't remember the exact number. I do a lot of numbers every day. But their traffic was down tremendously because the CVB had kind of botched the relaunch of their new website. And I will tell you, we see this happen all the time. We had a customer who did a $150,000 website redesign with one of the top international travel marketing agencies, and they totally botched the project and destroyed their organic search traffic in the process. We kind of limped along with that for about a year. They hired us to fix it. We rebuilt and relaunched the entire website for about a third of that budget, and did that at the same point we fixed all the things that were wrong and are increasing their organic search traffic in 2019 at paces they have never seen before as a destination marketing organization. So some tremendous opportunities exist, and maybe you're with a CVB and you're seeing traffic from your CVB on the decline, or your CVB just relaunched a website. We will, while we've offered to do an analytics analysis for you, I would be happy to do an analytics analysis for your CVB and DMO. They tend to get a lot more territorial and be a lot less open to having a conversation. But if you're an active member of your CVB or DMO and you see traffic on the decline from that source, you need to speak up and say something, and we are happy to partner with them, do a 30-minute Google Analytics analysis totally for free to help them start the journey of figuring out why did we lose traffic. Because they probably shouldn't be asking the question of their web developer at this point, because they probably already have and they're not getting answers. You need, as a member of that, as a member owner of that, you need to figure out the why and help them get there, because it's impacting your business if traffic is down from this. Got a little bit off on a bunny trail there, but this is so important. It's an important part because it drives a lot of high quality traffic to our customer sites. So it's something that we look at, not something we can control, right? But something we look at on a regular basis. We also know that there's SEO value, that there's value beyond the traffic we get from these third-party websites. There's SEO value, there's brand value by association, there's other value-added elements of these relationships. Many of them sell gift certificates and there's value created there. But we have to understand that referring website partners are not the same as OTAs, and we have to measure their performance differently. We need to measure their performance, but we need to measure it differently. So that's an important part of what we're looking at and how we need to be thinking about this. But all of those investments you're making in associations, you need to be looking at those and analyzing that part of your return on investment that you're getting. All right, so we just kind of dove into a lot. We talked a lot about Google Analytics. I talked to data at you for like almost an hour, and hopefully you hung with us. Hopefully you're probably drinking extra coffee right now to try to keep up with my energy level. Somebody who was on a call with me yesterday was teasing me about that, but I'm passionate about this stuff and I love helping you guys solve these problems. So if there's anything we can do to help, please get in touch with us. If you've been confused by anything I've said today, which I'm sure at some point I confused you, I confused myself at a few points, so that's okay if you're confused, but reach out, let us know how we can help. We're happy to do a free Google Analytics analysis. I've told you several stories today just from the last 2 weeks about tremendous opportunities we've uncovered inside of people's Google Analytics, from $100,000 of wasted ad spend in one place to CVB issues in another, and e-commerce tracking and self-referral issues. Like, analytics can be ripe with issues, but at the same time, it's ripe with opportunity to grow your business in 2020. And that's what we want to help you uncover, is even when we're uncovering things that aren't going well, and sometimes that's not good news, the good news is we uncovered it and then we can put together a plan to fix it, as opposed to sticking our head in the sand and moving forward blindly and not knowing what's working and what's not, and not being able to fix the things that aren't working well and capitalize on the things that are working well. So if you need help, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you figure this out, or just get a second opinion. You know, maybe you have a great relationship with the agency you're working with, but sometimes a second opinion is really helpful. You know, I saw something the other day that said never make a medical decision without a second opinion. I think it was like somebody's Facebook meme or whatever. But I was like, that is so true. Like, it is important to get a second opinion. And the same is true in marketing. Like, sometimes you just need a second opinion. And sometimes our customers have been like, man, I don't know that what you said like adds up with what I've heard. I'm like, that's okay, get a second opinion. Like, that's totally okay. We encourage you to do that. We're humble enough to say we don't know everything, and that's fine to go get a second opinion. And in the same way, maybe you love the agency you're working with, but you just want a second opinion on, are things going well or are there opportunities? We're happy to do that for you. So if you want to take advantage of that, it's completely free. Just email me. My email address is there on the screen. We'll connect you with a member of our team or connect you with myself. And you can tell me what you like and didn't like. You can make fun of my energy level, whatever you want to do. I've been called the Energizer Bunny, but we'll help you get in the data and figure out what's going on and help you make data-driven decisions for your plan for 2020. But don't stick your head in the sand and just hope everything is going to be okay. On one of the very first boot camps we did in this series, I said in 2020, we're going to have to do more marketing to get the same results because we're seeing increased competition. And there's economics to back that up, economic theory to back that up, because as competition is increasing, as supply is increasing, and it's increasing at a faster pace than demand is increasing, price tends to go down. So if we want to maintain price, we have to drive more demand, and driving more demand is marketing's job, but you've got to look at this. Don't stick your head in the sand and say, okay, well, 2019 was good, so 2020 will be good as well. That's not the case. 2020 is going to get even more complex than 2019 was. And 2019 is significantly more complex than the years before it had been. So it's just increasingly complex all the time, and you need to make sure that you're on a good path. So if there's anything we need to help, reach out. Email address is on the screen. Contact information is going to be on this next screen as well. But just let us know what we can do to help. If you have questions we have answers. We have solutions, even more importantly than that. So if you have any questions, drop them in the chat panel. Our team would be happy to answer those questions for you. Otherwise, you can get in touch with me directly. My information is there on the screen, and we'd be happy to help answer questions, solve problems, or do a Google Analytics analysis for you to help set your path forward for 2020. Guys, this has been a ton of fun. I've had a ton of fun getting face-to-face with many of you over the last six parts of our Marketing Bootcamp series. Again, we're going to be replaying this Marketing Bootcamp series at the beginning of the year, so stay tuned for that. Share that information with a friend who could have used this information. Catch a session that you might have missed and didn't get the recording on. Take advantage of that opportunity, because we want you to have the most successful 2020 you have ever had, but you have to be willing to do something different to get there. Otherwise, you won't even probably get the same result. You'll probably get a worse result in 2020 if you keep doing the same things. So we've got to evolve our strategy, and we hope we've helped you do that over the last 6 parts. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please send me an email. Just let me know what you think. This has been a new format for us. We're about to move into a new office, so we're going to do some things differently there from a format perspective. I'm not going to have a giant green wall behind me, although that's our feature color. We're going to change some things up. So it's going to be exciting. But make sure you stay tuned with us and let us know what you think. Topics that you'd like to see us cover, ideas that you have, feedback that you have, let us know. We'd love to hear from you guys. Thanks everybody for your time. We hope you've learned a lot, unpacked a lot, and have a plan together to make 2020 the best year that's ever been. Thanks. Have a great rest of your day.